As you can imagine, something came up on my end, but rest assured, I'm still quite adamant about seeing Dune Part 2 this weekend. I also finished reading the book yet again. I'm on the appendices of the lore, and we're watching Part 1 this evening as we speak, so in order to make up for it, I'm swapping this with a video that I have in mind for tomorrow, as I sometimes do. That's one benefit to not having a set schedule. You can modify it if you need to, which will be the case this coming week as well. So, here's a discussion video on the upcoming Pokémon Legends Z-A. So, I definitely am alright with them taking a little bit longer. I believe this was going to be the case that Utsunomiya alluded to in previous this one, especially as a lot of time is being spent fixing in Scarlet and Violet, as well as adding post-launch content. I mean, since I cannot personally verify any claims of being quote-unquote rushed, but I'd also like to reiterate that both this and Zelda are built different ways. I think trying to compare the two does not make much sense for the most part beyond this. If the developers play their cards right, I genuinely believe that ZA could very well be the franchise Tears of the Kingdom, or Baldur's Gate 3. It really does look that good, personally. Likewise, it's not currently known whether or not the game takes place in the past or the future, since on some of the architecture of the city itself definitely it has depicts like an earlier part of Kalos, like a stand-in for France, but some of the other depictions, like the Turn Mega Evolution, and really how they're revamping the city to focus on the coexistence between people and Pokemon, seems to suggest it's like it takes place in not too distant future. I mean, no too much stock into the official timelines that were provided. I'm one of those people that, unless otherwise stated, like Legends Arceus takes place in like 600 years in the past, that each game takes place in the year it came out in. As for how they'll handle the Return of Mega Evolution, I definitely think the timing is right. On top of giving us some clues to who could be the starter rosters, building on how Legends Arceus mixed and match to representatives from Unova, from Alola, and from Johto. Odo, perhaps with some similar mixing and matching, and we're going to have some regional variants in there as well, which was one of the biggest and most pleasant surprises, though the usual Stage 2 forms are still in the game's code. Legends Arceus were not that hard to transfer either. I mean, I can't see what certain will be like a launch title for the upcoming Switch successor, which also seems to inadvertently corroborate the rumors of it being pushed back about a year or so to have more games ready for it and different scalpers, but I could see it being like a showcase game as well as a transitional one from the existing consoles to a new one, much like how Breath of the Wild was for the Wii U and the Switch, or even how for Twilight Princess was for the GameCube and the original Wii. Even though most people bought the game on the successor console, there was still some audience on the preceding one people weren't ready to upgrade yet, or, and more often than not, just weren't able to find the blasted thing at all. Yeah. Yeah. Normally, I don't do these kind of videos. I always want to just have some little info to go on, but if I have enough knowledge of a certain topic, and if precedent sets based on what's come before, I can make exceptions. And yeah. So I'm definitely hyped, as you might imagine. As for the game taking place is in Lumio City as a whole until otherwise noted. I personally don't think it's actually affecting my hype that much. Quite the opposite, in fact. Even though it's just a mock-up in terms of like the map sketch as well as the city itself and this footage. Even though I can tell it's physically larger than and how it's put in X and Y. I and also I could see it like in a transition from how Super Mario 64, where it depicted into the Peach's castle, to how it was put in Mario Odyssey in its primary form, even contrasted to like in the 64 world you went to later on in the game. And sometimes, and also kind of like how Tears of the Kingdom built on Breath of the Wild did, and even how the upcoming Granddaughter 6 also, how it's depicted in Vice City is also now was confirmed to be a facility larger than even Los Santos was in 5, or Liberty City was in 4, or I mean, I definitely think that packing it with things to do will be a challenge, but I think would also really be more so is making the city itself fun to explore. I mean, I really enjoyed just visiting all the shops, all the side activities, and even some of the post game content that took place in Lumio City and X and Y. And I sincerely hope that can also be the case here. I don't know what role the protagonist will play, other than the usual cipher to who would be a connection to the game world itself, but I definitely think it should be an experience to keep an eye on. I am hesitant to compare this to anything from Ubisoft's over, since I was not a huge fan of recent output even before I found out what was going on behind the scenes. But there is one thing I can compare it to, is like the fallout from the infamous launch of Assassin's Creed Unity about a decade ago, when the character's face or lack thereof became the face of the game's infamously botched launch, and even caused the developer to move away from making that franchise as an annual installment as opposed to going more alternating route. I mean, and even though, again, I'm not one to buy into the whole 3 year cycle argument, I don't think they ever set out with that kind of framework. It just kind of happened to fall on that route. I mean, but I definitely think that more time could benefit this. I mean, yes, I wouldn't even object to again actually not being constrained to the usual holiday release window, which again I don't think they ever set out to put out most of the Switch entries the week before Black Friday. Again, just kind of happened. But that being the case, is I think maybe not being tied down to that window could give them more time as well. I mean, I definitely hope that, and also think that with that being the case, that I'm not saying Return to Johto or Unova would never happen like some of these people are trying to do. I would suggest, however, that maybe they're holding off on doing so until after this one comes out at the earliest. I mean, maybe we'll get some legacy content down the line and to make up for the absence of such a title this year. I mean, here, which would be fine with me. Maybe something kind of similar to some digital eclipses, his collections where they also serve as interactive museums with a collection of games, like the Cowabunga collection or the Street Fighter Anniversary collection. Also heard very good things about Atari 50 as well. I mean, yeah. Anyway, That's all for now, and I will see you tomorrow with my belated look at Dune Part 2. I hope you all have a good rest of your weekend and encourage you to seek out all Pokemon.